I'm Lucy Edwards, Director of Strategic Engagement at Matterport. And today we are at Avenue 8 and my guest is Michael Martin. And Michael, you are co-founder and co-owner, co-CEO of Avenue 8.
That's right.
So just a few words how that beautiful company was born and your background.
Sure. So Avenue 8 started in March of 2020, a week before the pandemic. We are a brokerage built for the way brokerages will be in the future, which is very flexible, elevated, technology-oriented, and that allows agents to have a very different relationship with Avenue 8 than they would at other brokerages.
Yeah, and because you are so young and you started in difficult times and you're prospering, that tells me that everything you are creating and putting together, you have the right direction.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot when I worked at Apollo, the private equity firm, back during the Great Recession. So I was at Apollo from 2008 to 2010. And at the time, among other companies, they were the owners of Realogy, which is the biggest brokerage in the world. And so thinking about that experience, what's changed in the last 15 years with technology, with data access, with consumer search. Now, because of COVID, a real change in the mental model of agents and their relationship to office space. And so when thinking about building a brokerage for the future, we felt like the role of space for the agent was secondary to the ability to move with them. So I think with Avenue 8, with technology, very mobile first, we're able to give agents everything that they need and nothing that they don't.
And so how do you support your agents and the technology? Do you have a great platform and are you looking for the right partners? So what are you offering?
We certainly offer technology, although if we were building Avenue 8 100 years ago, we'd also be offering electricity. And I don't think that would make us an electricity company. Real estate's a people business, and I think our team is exceptional. We have a really interesting mix of people at Avenue 8, people like my colleague Richard Grossman, who was the president of large national brokerages based in New York, and certainly, my co-founder Justin, who really was solving his own problem. Justin and I met in 2018 in San Francisco, where I was living at the time, at a museum event, and he had been an agent for a decade. Also started in the recession. Was at many different companies, big companies, small companies, and for him, the value exchange never really made sense. And so when he sort of thought about, well, what would I want to join if I were building something from the ground up, that became very interesting for me, given the experience with Apollo. We never asked ourselves the question, why are agents necessary? And I think this is a big misconception in the industry, is that technology is going to push agents out. The AI is not going to replace you. But a human using AI will replace you. And so I think that leaning into ways that technology can really enable agents to do their best, grow their business, save them time, and ultimately create a better experience for the consumer, that's what we're all about.
So are you located right now, we're in New York City right now, and your presence, is it New York? Are you looking to expand to other states?
We started the company in San Francisco, so that was a week before COVID, in March 6th of 2020. We launched with a few agents and lots of dreams. But a few months into the pandemic, as real estate became an essential service, you could start showing homes again. There was enormous pent-up demand for people to reevaluate their relationship with home because of a public health crisis. And so I think a lot of the agents couldn't go to the office. And then they realized, maybe I don't need to go to the office all the time. Maybe what I actually need is a very different set of support services, expertise around performance marketing, expertise around data, brokerage leadership, a level of agent experience management that just could make it feel very elevated and community driven without relying on physical space. And so we then said, okay, well, let's try LA. We expanded to LA late 2020, then to New York last year. And so across the company, we're almost 350 agents. We've done almost $2 billion of transactions in not a long time. And I think right now, because of the market, our value proposition to the agent has never been more obvious. And so we're seeing a lot of interest start to come in.
What a great success story. 2 years, and look at that. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the fact that the company is so young, that you are a forward thinker. You are not dragging 100 years worth of luggage with you. You are fresh start, fresh ideas, and you are creating a new agent in a way. How do you see a future agent, agent in today's environment?
In the future, I think what's best for the consumer is a simpler experience with the transaction before and after. And agents are in a really unique position, and brokerages are a really unique position to be the first touch to the consumer. And so as the experience of buying and selling a home consolidates into fewer touch points, that consolidation will happen into a brokerage because it's the brokerage. It's the counterparty in the transaction, and agents drive the market. And so if we can serve agents better than anyone else can, the ability for us to then create value for the consumer becomes even larger. And so I think in order to achieve that, you're going to have efficiencies around how data is stored and managed. Maybe that involves the blockchain. You're going to have less repetitive workflows around marketing, around client engagement, where things like generative AI can certainly make a really big impact in saving time, and also A/B testing different strategies around marketing. But you're still going to have agents and their clients with a very close relationship because it's a very emotional process. And I think there's been a lot of investment over the last few years into companies that try to cut agents out. We never asked ourselves, why do we need agents? We actually said, why do we need brokerages? If agents can use Matterport, if they are direct-to-consumer brands because of social media, what is the brokerage really adding if they're not giving leads? How important is the big brokerage branding? These are all the questions we started asking ourselves. I think brand will still matter in the future. And I think that agents want to be affiliated with a brand that feels resonant, that feels premium, but also with the type of consumer that will be buying homes in 10 years. I always say people that are 25 today are going to be 35 in 10 years. And so when you sort of build those long relationships over that course of time, I think we're in a really good position because we've approached the design of real estate differently. And some of our investors include the CEOs and founders of companies like Warby Parker and Allbirds. And I think there's a corollary of how we're using design and customer experience to deliver a very different value to the consumer, to the customer. And for us, that's the agent.
And that the final consumer, that's really what it's all about. You are about agents, they're about the final consumer, and you are supporting the whole trip, if you will.
We are, but we don't believe that we need to build every element of that ourselves. I mean, this is also a big evolution in brokerage technology in the last 20 years. Even in 2012, if you were starting a real estate technology brokerage in 2012, you would have had to build and own more of that infrastructure yourself because there wasn't this ecosystem of APIs available in a lot of the different places that are today. And so when assembling the kind of brokerage technology stack, we want to find the best partners. Matterport, for example, is a great example where that's an interesting and critical tool for agents that brokerages should never try to build, but rather what would the world look like if that was natively embedded within the workflow of a company? I think it's those types of questions and finding those types of partners that we get really excited about. We actually announced yesterday a partnership with a large title company, first of its kind in either industry, where we can initiate title through Avenue 8 and just create a better consumer experience.
So do you have the same title company in New York and in California, or there are different regulations and that's why you have to get different partners in every state?
We don't have to get different partners in every state, and it certainly is state by state, but our biggest market is California, and we're not building this just for one company. It's really around creating a marketplace with an Avenue 8 where if you are a title company that is API driven, you can have a closer attachment to the origination point of the decision in an environment where agents are spending time and their clients are spending time because of the nature of the brokerage.
And what is your take on the right marketing strategy for every property? It might differ between New York and California, probably even between Los Angeles and San Francisco. And that's why I think it is important to understand what the property needs. What is your approach? How do you lead your agents? Do you spend time on marketing with them?
Yeah, performance marketing is a core capability of Avenue 8. After I was at Apollo, I was the managing partner of a company called Code and Theory, which was a 500-person digital marketing and product design company. Our clients ranged from high-end fashion brands like Hermes and Chanel. We were the digital agency for Adidas. doing sneaker drops in Germany and building consumer data platforms around that. So it was a very creative experience. So we always thought, Justin and I, that if in 2023 a brokerage is not expert at navigating the complexities of omnichannel marketing, like what are they really doing? It's not about providing yard signs and an office that you don't go to a lot,
yeah.
right? And so I think we've always been built for what is the need today and in the future, and how can we sort of gear that as a guiding principle of the company. I think one thing that is generally happening, especially because of things like ChatGPT, which make the creation of text so different than ever before, is that there's going to be a move towards visual learning. I think people, when they can write and synthesize text faster, they'll be spent less time reading and more visual learning in general. And so when you think about real estate marketing, you want to have as immersive experience as possible in viewing the home in any format you're viewing it in. And this is certainly where Matterport's a leader, right? Just that sort of truly immersive 3D experience, creating digital twins. I mean, that's a very cool starting point. And I can just imagine all the ways that could transcend. But when it comes to like marketing listings, I actually feel like this is where agents maybe misallocate their marketing budget a little bit. The consumer is going to find the property through a search experience, which is largely driven and managed by a few large search companies. So rather than using marketing to list only the properties, it's really about building themselves, building their own brand, becoming more visible in their local market. And that's where marketing strategies can become really interesting. Property content can be part of it, but I think it's more about the agent than about a specific listing when it comes to some of these newer forms of marketing.
I agree with you. I think reputation is very important. Brand and reputation, they leverage your brand and they create their own brand and their own reputation. Online presence, I think, is very important. Social media, Google search, maybe video content. Do you believe in investing energy in videos, not just for properties like walkthrough videos, but also in the personalized videos of agents?
Yeah, I think there's been a big shift in how marketing is thought of generally, which is the old days of, I have a funnel that I want to find people and to put into my funnel and convert them. It's flipped now. It's more that everyone is on a moment of a journey of buying or selling a home, and you have to kind of meet them where they are, right? So it's a question of formats and frequency and pathing. So what are the content formats that are going to be the most engaging for someone? And if you look at the rise and adoption of platforms like TikTok and Be Real and all the others, it's a very video, bite snack meal type of content delivery and consumption, which is very approachable for people. So I think videos obviously can be very critical, among other formats. The second is the frequency. What is the frequency at which an agent needs to put content out there? I think the signal to noise ratio is so high, there's so much content out there that having the right cadence is important. And then the last question is, once someone views the content, where are we pathing them to? Is it to my personal agent website? Is it to my landing page on my brokerage website? Is it to a property website for a listing? So those are all questions where there's data captured every moment. And the better you can do that, the better you can understand where the consumer is and how to meet them there.
And so do you analyze, what's your conversation with agents for you to guide them, especially if they're newer agents, or even if they are experienced, but they are at a different age category that they cannot adjust and adapt? How do you convert them to your Avenue 8 spirit?
It starts with storytelling and understanding what is the story that the agent can authentically tell and wants to tell, and then kind of creating a content strategy around that, which can then inform the formats and if there's spend or not. But it has to start with that story. And so there's strategy sessions with agents to really understand how they think about themselves as a whole person, of which real estate is a part, but not the only part, right? And through that kind of discovery process, we're able to create really interesting and unique content kind of categories, which I think they wouldn't be able to find in other brokerages. Maybe they would hire a digital marketing agency, but then you're managing a bunch of different vendors, and the data view is fragmented. So it really should be the brokerage's job. It's funny, a lot of reluctance in the industry around social media. Does it work? right? That's the question. Well, I don't want to spend $500, because I don't know if it works. And you think about, well, you've been spending $500 a quarter on postcards for 25 years. How do you know that works, right? It's like inherently less measurable than a social media asset, and you can't just do it once. So I think there are some changes in the industry around Zillow Premier Agent versus Zillow Flex. I think a lot of agents are now thinking about diversifying their marketing portfolio, and I think we are a trusted kind of money manager for agents in making better decisions around how to spend marketing dollars and encouraging them through our business model that they can reinvest back into their business.
And I think that's what the agent of today and the future agent will probably be looking for a brokerage that supports them and one step ahead of traditional trend, right? So that's how I see it. Like if I were to be an agent right now, that's exactly what I would be looking for.
I think you also want to be with a brokerage that you trust to be a vetter and integrator of the best things out there, so that you don't have to make the decisions of which CRM should I use, how should I think about email, right? And I think that vendor management fatigue, I think, is very real for agents. They have a bunch of individual software subscriptions, so you have 11 or 12 tools the average agent is using to do their job, and you have customer service interactions with all that. So to have a broker sort of say, this is for today, this is the right mix of technologies, and that might change in a couple of years. And because we have ego driven about having to build everyone ourselves, we can just make sure that the right piece is in place. But the user experience for the agent should be decoupled from that. In other words, we can abstract the functionality, abstract the interaction, abstract the data out of the underlying tools, and make sure that the user experience is the best that it can be. Because if it's not simple to use, no one's going to use it.
What is your take on today's market? I don't like the word shifting market. I would like to say, there are lots of opportunities, and you are in two completely different markets, I would say, between San Francisco, and Los Angeles, and New York City. All three of them are extremely expensive, so they have that in common. But where is it going, and what's your expectations?
You're totally right. When people ask me, how's the market? The answer is always, which market? Because they're different city to city, and within cities, they're different in terms of different price brackets. It's a tale of many different markets right now. Interest rates were at a 5,000-year low when we were in 2021, and they were in the mid twos. They've gone from that to still being extremely low. A lot of headlines even today about mortgages at 6%. That's for a conforming 30-year mortgage. There are lots of 10-year interest-only adjustable rate mortgages being issued right now in the 4% range. So it's still a really good time for buyers. And in fact, this might be the last good quarter for buyers, because I think the activity is going to really pick up in the middle to second half of this year. We've seen an unprecedented shift in the velocity of change for interest rates from October, November. And in many ways, the Federal Reserve's strategy right now is to create that shock into the market. So we know that's the strategy, but we also know that's not going to be the forever strategy. And so, the expectations between buyers and sellers are still in a bit of a dance. And I think that they're going to be able to dance together in the near future. And that's going to be a really good time for agents that spend this time to really instrument their business so that when they do get busy again, they're able to kind of get in front of it.
What's in common between California markets and both of you, like you are north and south, and us here in New York?
Well, it's funny, now they opened a Jelena in New York, which is my favorite restaurant in LA. And so what do they have in common now? All the same restaurants, apparently. And maybe there's going to be some more California culture in New York. We are the only brokerage in New York City that started in California, which I think is really cool. And I think we bring some of that innovative mindset and kind of being curious and saying yes to things, which the New York market really needs. What are the differences? They're all luxury markets. They have very smart and discerning clients that want really good agents. And so I think we've been able to grow faster than any brokerage ever has, and certainly the only one, sort of virtual model that's been able to succeed in the most competitive premium markets. Mm-hmm. And what that allows us to do, I think, is when we do enter new markets, we have that in our kind of roots. It's very hard to go the other way. If you don't start in luxury markets and then try to enter luxury markets, the perception amongst agents is going to be very, very different. There are differences in the commission structures. There are differences in the closing process. For example, in New York, it's all kind of lawyer managed during closing, mm-hmm. whereas in California, that transaction management, transaction coordination process is really important and time intensive. But the product that they're selling is obviously very different, right? I mean, apartments, co-ops versus a lot of single family homes and mansions, right? So, but actually, it's not fundamentally different. They all have very similar wants and needs. They all have fairly similar workflows when it comes to marketing, when it comes to data, comps, photography, staging. Those are all actually relatively similar. And their clients all want the same thing. The buyers want the house they want for the best price, and the sellers want the best price, right? And so I think that's what is very encouraging about our model, is that I think it is very portable. But we don't want to dilute ourselves too quickly. And so really, we're excited to continue to focus in California and New York for the rest of this year.
So you're just building the foundation, you are learning about differences and how you can adapt it in Miami, for example, and how you can move forward. But right now, it's all about focusing on the foundation. And I think that's a great decision.
I think as a company that is also building software, it's the worst thing that you can do is design and build something for a specific persona or mm-hmm. demographic or market. And so part of what's been valuable of expanding the company to New York is learning some of the nuances and differences, so that when we do build technology, we have that type of scalability in mind.
What would you wish to a brand new agent who is getting into the industry in today's market, which is, yes, lots of opportunities, but also lots of struggles and questions? What would you wish for them to do to start with, and how they are looking for the brand that will fit them?
I would tell a new agent right now to find a mentor, and maybe that involves joining the team of a more experienced agent. I think teams mm-hmm. are a really important part of how the industry has been changing, and we have a unique way of supporting those teams. Avenue 8 has Avenue 8 agents, but we also provide white label kind of brokerage infrastructure as a service to large teams and even some independent companies, both in New York and in California. So it's really about flexibility. And that, again, really came from my co-founder Justin's experience of having been an agent, understanding that you don't want to wait in line for things. You want to be able to run your business as you want to run your business, because you don't work for the brokerage. And really, the brokerage should be working for you. So I would say to a new agent, that's a great place to start, is finding mentorship or maybe joining a team.
And I appreciate the coaching. I think it is important. It is important because in the beginning they will be frustrated and maybe insecure, and they need that coach who will make them focus and make them feel comfortable with themselves and encourage them to continue. Yeah. So I agree with you totally. Well, thank you so much, Michael. It was a great pleasure. I really enjoyed our conversation. You have absolutely amazing points on everything we were talking about. So I just can't wait to share it with our agents.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All the best, and all the best to your company and your team.
Thank you.